we'll give it about another minute and then we'll get started. But again, we're going to have a pretty relaxing and engaging conversation with our math Olympians here. We have 5 Olympian students and 1 Olympian coach. So it's going to be a pretty relaxing afternoon as we wrap up Math Fest with everyone. There's going to be time for you to participate in the chat. So get the chat ready to go. And we're going to, again, have a very relaxing conversation and can't wait to hear from all of you. I think we're going to have a really nice and intimate conversation today. Okay. And maybe as we wait, panelists, would you like to put in where you're calling in from so we can get an idea of how spread out throughout the country you are? Same thing for those who are viewing. We'd love to know where you're from. Right now I'm located in the greater DC area and it is a rainy day today. So I'd love to hear where you guys are from.
I'm from Oregon, Portland, Oregon. And it's actually surprisingly warm here. Yeah, past few days it's been actually like pretty hot. So
nice.
Yeah.
I'm in Euless, Texas. That's near Dallas. The weather is nice inside the house, which is, you know, good enough for me or something. The weather is not as nice outside the house.
Austin, Texas here. We're having one of the coolest summers that I've in recent memory.
I'm from Northern Virginia, actually Alexandria, which is really close to DC. We can see the pencil from here because I'm in an apartment which is 11 floors up.
I put it in the chat already, but I'm from South Dakota, and I think temperatures and weather is okay. It's probably not as hot here compared to most other places.
Now I'm currently in New York, and it's supposed to rain, but it's not, which is pretty nice. And it's also warm, but not hot, so I think it's perfect for the summer.
Nice, nice. Well. Certainly a lot of East and Central participants here. I was thinking we would see a few more on the West Coast, so hopefully they'll come through the cracks. But I know some of our biggest areas for our AMC program is in California. So I'd be curious to see if we have any more West Coasters kind of creep in as the session goes. That said, welcome everyone to Fireside Chat, the summer edition. This event, we held it the first time last fall. It was an effort for all of us to kind of get together, talk about what it's like to be a Math Olympian, especially in the competitions community, build some transparency, just get to know each other, talk to one another, because I think, again, too, when people think math competitions, it could be a little bit mysterious. Also, the people who take math competitions might seem a little mysterious too. And really, we're all in this together, and we're all a part of the cohort together. So this is just an open conversation. We'll play a few games, and then we'll end with Q&A. So if there is a burning question that you have in your chat, you have a little portion on the side for Q&A. At any point, you can pop some questions in, and at the end, we'll go ahead and answer some questions. But it will be a pretty interactive session. Also, next to the chat, you'll see polls, and we will be asking for your help answering the polls. What we do today determines on what you decide. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started. Again, if you have any thoughts or comments, you just pop them in there. It's a very intimate group today, so I'm pretty sure we can spend a little extra time talking about whatever you want to talk about. So that said, we're going to jump to some introductions in our summer edition. We have our little bonfire here, and I'm going to go ahead and kick it off with our first Olympian, Isabella.
Hi, I'm Isabella Kwan. Hopefully you can all hear me okay. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I'm a rising senior. I've been doing math contests for a really large part of my life, and they are probably one of my greatest passions. I attended the Math Olympiad summer program in 2020, and have also done various other contests, especially the AMC series. Aside from that, I've been these days I've been mostly occupied by math research, but I am looking forward to another great contest season coming up.
Hi, my name is Gopal Goel, and I've also been doing math contests for a long time, and I enjoy them very much. And I've been to the Math Olympiad program in 2019, 2020, and I went to the International Math Olympiad in 2020. I also do some physics competitions, and I also went to the International Physics Olympiad in 2018. But I really enjoy working on math problems, and the main reason I really like competitions is because wanting to do well on competitions was a really good excuse to just spend a lot of time working on really interesting problems. So hopefully, that can motivate people to do a lot of these really interesting problems and learn a lot from that.
Okay, hello. My computer's slightly glitching, so I hope you can hear me. Okay. It's unfrozen. I'm Serena, and I just graduated from high school, and this year I'm taking a gap year mostly to study Korean and study whatever else I want and relax, I guess. I'm participating in a study abroad program to South Korea, although because of COVID, we don't know when we get to depart. And I've been involved with math contests since 6th grade, from math counts in middle school, and then after that I started doing the AMC series. I ended up making the European Girls Math Olympiad team last year, or EGMO, and it was virtual, but it was still really good experience to sort of reach that level and be able to do those problems. I would say the most enjoyable part of math contests for me was doing problems with other people. I'd say for the first 6 years, I sort of felt like math was just something I would do by myself, especially since being from South Dakota, no one else does math, so it is just me doing the problems. But I think after finding someone else to do math with, I became a lot more motivated to try to for both of us to get better. And that way we could also use each other's strengths to solve much harder math problems, and that's how I got a lot more confidence in my problem solving abilities.
Awesome. I'm Pravalika. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I'm a senior in Northern Virginia. I've attended the Math Olympiad summer program in 2020 and 2021, and that's actually where I met all the other panelists today. So I was also a gold medalist at the MIT Math Prize for Girls Olympiad in 2019. And aside from that, I really like applied math and coding, and I've been working on a computer vision project. And I received a second grand award in systems software at the International Science Fair this year. One of my most meaningful moments in math was at the Fairfax Math Circle, which was basically my introduction to the math world. I was one of the only girls there, and I was a couple of years younger than all the other guys. So they were all a foot taller than me. So obviously I was always really nervous to talk or answer questions because I didn't want to get things wrong in front of everyone else. And one day the teacher had a question, so I decided to go up on the whiteboard to answer it. And I ended up being wrong in front of the whole class, which was great. So I was really nervous and embarrassed, but the other guys actually didn't laugh at me, and we all talked through the problem, and one of them kindly pointed out my mistake. So by the end of the day, I felt really at home in the math circle. I wasn't really afraid to make mistakes anymore, and I wasn't as intimidated by the older guys. I really like math competitions, especially the AMCs, because they're just a concrete way to track my progress over the years. My goal is always to keep growing and do better than I did last year. I also love team competitions. Some of my favorite memories include traveling with my team and hanging out in different cities during different competitions. I guess this is all before the pandemic, but I hope to do that again, maybe this year or next year. Overall, I've just had a really awesome and rewarding experience in the math community.
Hi, I'm Luke Robitai. I'm a rising high school senior. I live in, and I'm homeschooled. I live in Euless, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. I was on the US IMO team this year, as well as last year and the year before that. Besides math contests, I also do computer science and linguistics contests as well. One really great experience I had with math contests would be when I went to the Romanian Master of Mathematics contest in 2019, which is not as widely known about as the IMO, but it's another contest that the MAA selects people for, as like it's an international contest between countries, but it's also like the US also uses it as like training for IMO. And like it was a really great experience because I was on the team with friends, and so like this is sort of an example of how like it's not all just about results, because like it was one of my favorite math contest experiences, even though I didn't actually get a gold medal at the contest. I got a silver medal. I missed gold by 1 point, but still I was on the team with friends, and I got to, talking about cool math and doing math and seeing a foreign country, and just it was an amazing experience. And so like it's not just about whether you win or lose, or do well or don't do so well.
Hey folks, my name is Alex, and I'm a rising high school senior who is deeply into math Olympiads. Sorry. So that was me 10 years ago. But as you can see, I was exactly the same, like, all the other guys. I like math for the beauty. I'm sure you all are, and if you're not, you will. And I really enjoyed competitions for the wonderful community it brought me in, like Luke just said. But unlike a lot of, or all of you guys, I actually have never done USM or AME or even AMC or math counts. Right. And so you may ask, like, what's the deal here? And the thing is that, like, I'm originally from Ukraine. So I was participating in all of those competitions, but, the versions we have back in Ukraine. I got 2 medals at the IMO. And after graduating from high school, I continued doing math and computer science in general. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, which, I'm sure many of you are, and that's totally normal. One thing I knew, though, is that back in high school, when I, was trying to learn math a lot and participate in competitions, I wasn't able, to find good teachers, good sources of education who can like advance my creative thinking abilities pretty fast. And it's like hard, like a teacher who could like explain the intuition and hidden connections behind those magical proofs we see everywhere. And so after I graduated, I decided to try teaching myself. and I quickly got involved in Math Olympiad motion on the other side of the fence, teaching, organizing, jurying most of the competitions in Ukraine, coaching the national team, being the leader of Ukrainian team at different international competitions. And then I moved to Pittsburgh for a PhD in math at Carnegie Mellon. And now I'm coaching the US team. I'm the deputy leader of our team in the IMO. I'm teaching at MOP, which is that famous national summer camp for the best kids that MAA runs. As well as like taking part in a lot of other areas in Math Olympiad community organized and led by MAA, like selecting problems for Amy, leading USMO, etc. But besides teaching Math Olympiads and doing computer science and optimization research at Carnegie Mellon, I actually like to do all sorts of different things. And I think if I need to just pick one to tell you about, then it will be sports. I play tennis, soccer, volleyball, badminton, squash, racquetball, a lot more. I really like hiking and rafting and climbing, and I guess I can keep going forever, but I'll better stop here. And yeah, I'm very, very excited to talk to all of you today.
All right, and my name is Nicole Goldberg. I am the manager of the AMC, so definitely overseeing the competitions with the help of my amazing team at the MAA, as well as our outreach opportunities like this one, where we get to bring the community together. I mean, we have some, honestly, you guys are gonna follow. You're going to love them so much, these 6 panelists. They're genuine. They want to talk to you. You have questions, they have answers. So let's get to know them a little bit more. Fireside chat isn't a fireside chat without a good story. So with that said, we're going to go into our next segment in our subtle transition, our story roulette. That's right, people. We need you at your polls because we're going to ask you to pick the picture you want to hear about. Our first panelist is Luke. Luke has 3 pictures up on the screen. And what we're going to ask you to do is I'm going to go ahead, open the poll in the poll tab, and you're going to pick which picture you'd like to hear Luke talk about. We'll give it about 30 seconds, and then we'll show the results. Okay. Give it a few more seconds. So right in your chat, you should have a poll function. There should be chat, polls, people, and Q&A. You're going to go ahead and vote for the picture that you'd like to hear about. Right. You don't see anything in the polls. Okay. Okay, does anybody see anything in their polls just yet?
I see.
You see the poll? Okay.
I see the poll as well.
Okay.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Okay, so if you're in the chat, I would say if you can. Pictures. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and try the results again. For those who are seeing the poll, please let me know if you can see the results.
I can see the results.
Okay, perfect. All right, Luke. Looks like picture 1 is the winner. Oh, hey, James. Thanks. All right, when you're ready, Luke, take it away.
Okay, picture one. So you may recall how a few days ago we had online MOAC, the Math Olympiad Awards ceremony at MathFest. Well, picture one was taken at MOAC in 2019 when, we didn't have a pandemic, and so we had MOAC in person. And so this is actually at the US State Department in Washington, D.C. So on the left, of course, it's me, and on the right is Congressman Jerry McNerney, who is the only math PhD holder in Congress. So he was there, and he was also at online MOAC on Wednesday. And so yeah, it's a really cool experience, and I hope we'll have MOAC in person in 2022. Hopefully that'll be safe, and we can go back to the State Department with the fancy ornate room. You can see that it's a very fancy room, so hopefully we can have that again in 2022.
Yeah, thanks, Luke. That's incredible. And yeah, MOAC was just something really special. I think that Dr. Eric Lander, too, just had some really beautiful, motivating, and genuine comments, very authentic. So thanks for sharing that. And I know you're making a lot of the adults that are looking nervous when you say that we should go back in person, because I know a few of them had some wardrobe fitting issues. So we'll start working out. All right. So next we're gonna have Pravalika. So here on the screen again, you'll see 3 pictures. Take a look at the pictures closely. I'm gonna go ahead, open the poll for Pravalika, and you go ahead and pick the poll you'd like to hear from her. Sorry, pick the picture you'd like to hear more about. Okay, give it another 5 seconds. All right. All right, looks like we're on picture number 2.
Okay. So picture number 2 was taken at Math Prize for Girls 2018, I think. I was receiving an honorable mention. This was my first time getting like a big math award, I think. I think it was like my first time like going on a stage to get an award, like for a contest that was like, it seemed more legit. I don't know. I really loved Math Prize for Girls. It was really awesome to meet other girls who were also like had the experience of being the only girls on their team. I felt like I had a lot in common with a lot of the people there, and I made some friends there that I still talk to. I was actually also really, really inspired by the guest speaker for this event. Her name is Moon Duchin, and her project was on using, I think it was on using random walks for politics to separate states into fair voting regions and to combat gerrymandering. And I thought that was just really cool because until then, I had always seen gerrymandering as purely a social or like a political problem. I didn't really see the math in it. So this talk, her talk kind of inspired me to look for math or math solutions everywhere, even when the problem doesn't seem like mathematical at all, which was really interesting.
Thanks, Pravalika. Yeah, that's a great share. And I think that one thing that I think all of us realize is that curriculum math is not the only math out there. That at least gives you a leverage point to jump into, delve in deeper. And I'm so thankful that you brought up that point, that there's more seemingly disconnected areas in the world that are joined together through cross fields. like you said, math, politics, history, and of course, geography. So thanks for bringing that up. And for this last section we have here, our last photo roulette is with Gopal. So I'm going to go ahead, open Gopal's poll now. Take a look at his pictures very closely. A lot of red chairs in these photos. And go ahead and vote for the picture you'd like to hear more about. Okay, we'll give about 5 more seconds. All right, we have a tie. So Gopal, I'll let you be the tiebreaker. It's between pictures 2 and 3, but you're nearly split even across the board.
So the thing is that 2 and 3 are actually from the same event, so that's good. So this is from the Romanian Masters of Mathematics, same one that Luke was referring to earlier, but in 2020, so the year after Luke went. So on the picture number 2, you can just see the team, or at least like most of the team. So I think when we were there, this is like the hotel lobby for the contest, and we're just sitting there discussing some problem that we got from the British team. Because at these contests, what happens is that you go and you have all these teams from different countries, and they just talk to each other. They give each other problems. They talk about interesting things. So it was some problem about like a bunch of people standing in a line with hats and stuff, and some logic problem along those lines that we were discussing there. And then picture number 3 is very interesting. So this was, I think, at the award ceremony where they give out the medals. So standing up, so on the chairs, you can see the team. And then standing up there is Po Shen Lo, who's the coach of the Math Olympiad teams, and he does a lot of interesting things. So basically, here what's happening is we're discussing. So this is in February of 2020, and we're essentially discussing what the probability is that COVID will blow up and be a huge thing in the world. And this is if you think about February 2020, people didn't really take it seriously back then. So Po Shen Lo, he was saying something like, there's like a 25 or 30% chance that this would be like a really huge thing in the world. And then everybody was super surprised. Like, are you serious? Like, it's probably way less than that. Like, there's no way this is actually going to be a big thing. And then what do you know, like 1 month later, it became like the biggest thing in the past like many years. So that was just kind of funny, where like his 25% we thought was so outrageous, but it turns out it wasn't. So yeah.
That's a crazy story, Cole. Thanks for sharing. I'm right there with you. I think I always bet against the odds of the thing happening, and then it becomes the thing. So I think I would have sided with your story. Even when COVID was happening, we were like, it wouldn't be a big thing. It'll be done in a month. And then, a year and a half later, here we are. All right. So with that said, I hope you guys are all alive in the crowd. Last day of Math Fest, woo! And we're going to go ahead and switch gears again. We're going to do the other photo relays in the next section. But for right now, as promised, another subtle transition. So, panelists, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to get a pen and a piece of paper ready, or anything you want to write with, whether it be shaving cream, acrylics, and a paint set and canvas. Let's do it, because we're going to do some spectrum questions. All right, so audience, if you're there, you're listening in, we're going to ask you, there's going to be an interactive element to this. We're going to have a question and some multiple choice answers. We're going to ask you, audience, to put your answers in the chat. Each one of our panelists is going to read one of the spectrum questions. You're going to go ahead, pick your answer, and type either your number or your letter choice answer in the chat. Okay, and then at the end, we'll kind of wrap up. The panelists will talk a little bit more about why they answered the way they did. And then we'll wrap up with some more photo relay and get ready for Q&A. So with that said, we're going to have Pravalika kick us off with our first spectrum question. Pravalika, you might be muted if you're talking. Okay, I'm not sure if we have technical difficulties with Pravalika, but I'll go ahead and step in for her just to read the question. Was math hard for you when you first started? So go ahead, audience, take a look at the answer choices. Panelists, feel free to do the same. Put your answer choices in the chat, and then hopefully Pravalika can join us back again, and we'll talk about our answer. This looks like a lot of 2s, 2, Gopal 2, 2, Sasha 4, interesting. Alex 4. Okay. Looks like we might have lost Pravalika, but what we'll do is we'll keep this question so when she comes back, she can give you her answer and we'll talk about it a little bit. So hope that's okay with everyone. We're going to... Nice. That's a really great point too that James put in the chat. It changes. Math is definitely a curvy road. It's not always linear, especially that applies to life too. So with that said, we're going to hold for Pravalika. Looks like we had some technical difficulties. As soon as she signs back on, we'll have her jump in and talk to us about what she put down. But let's head to our next spectrum question just to kind of keep it going. All right, and this one's Isabella's. Oh, sorry, this one's Luke's.
How likely are you to continue competition math in college? Okay, so I'll say like, you know, some people answered D, so I'll say like, in college, there aren't as many math contests as there are for when you're in high school, but at least for in the United States, we do have the one contest called the Putnam Competition, which is run by the MAA, and so like, you know, I imagine I'll do that, and maybe also, you know, be involved in math contests in ways of like, you know, mentoring students or, you know, proposing problems to contests or helping, you know, stuff like that. But the Putnam contest is sort of more of an Olympiad. It's sort of an Olympiad style test where, you know, you have to write proofs, but the amount of allowable math is larger because it's college. So, you know, there can be like calculus and matrices and stuff.
Yeah, Luke, I agree with you. I think some of the Putnam things that I've seen lately, which have been pretty great, are like the Putnam memes. And then they take like 2 mathematicians and say like who would get the most points on a Putnam problem. So if you guys are a little bored after this and you need something to do, check out Putnam memes on the internet. They're great. All right, we're gonna head over to our next spectrum question with Alex.
Yeah, how much do you agree with this statement? If someone put in the time and effort into preparation, they could qualify for the IMO, which is the International.
Also, how are we labeling the answers? Should it just be like 1 through 5 from left to right?
Yes, please. 1 is strongly agree and 5 is strongly disagree. A few more people. Let's see. Oh, nice. So there's a lot of 1s and 2s in the chat, and there's a lot of 3s and 4s on the panelists. Cool. So I think, like, at least for me, this is like a very simple question, but at the same time pretty intricate. It's simple because I strongly agree that if anyone put enough time and efforts, then they can absolutely make an IMO. There is no doubt about that. And, I have, seen a ton of proof to that in real life. And we all start at the same place and grow from there. At the same time, there are a lot of nuances. Like, for example, your efforts is not only including the energy that you spend on, say, studying or doing math or solving problems, but also your emotions and passions that you put in. If you are really into, math problems and enjoying learning and analyzing things, then you will advance faster for sure. That being said, usually math, if presented incorrectly, then it feels very hard, and hence, a lot of people don't like it in the beginning, even though actually math is extremely beautiful and very, very fun to do. The other element here is time, right? And I guess the intricate part is, if two people just may spend the exact same amount of time, but eventually advance to different levels. And contrary to popular beliefs, this is not because one person is intrinsically better than the other in math, or because one has a faster learning curve. This is just not true. It's just because there are infinitely many different ways to improve, and some of them are more efficient than others. In the same way how there are more efficient ways to build a house and less efficient ways. And so for example, if one student has a coach who guide them in the most efficient way based on the specific strengths and weaknesses that student has, then they'll just advance faster. So yeah, obviously there's a lot of details that go in, into that whole statement, but I truly believe that if people put the right effort and time, anyone can make the IMO.
Perfect. Thanks, Sasha. Thanks, Alex. I know we're going to have a lot of people ask questions about preparation, as we have Alex right now who has asked the question. So Alex, we have your question. You'll be the first one to get an answer. We're going to wrap up a few more of these spectrum questions, finish up our roulette, and then Q&A. So thank you for putting that in the chat. All right, let's head to our next one. Gopal, you're up.
Yeah. So this is an interesting question. How many hours per week do you spend on math? So just based on the multiple choice answers, just put up your whatever your answer is. When should I start talking about? All right. Yeah, so this is an interesting question. So my answer to this question was E, but sort of the distribution of this time has changed over the past couple of years. So I guess right now I'm about to go to college this fall, and I plan to major in math and physics. So I'm spending so at some point math will probably be some sort of full-time thing for me, at which point it'll be more than 20 hours. And right now I also have a couple of research projects and stuff that I'm working on, and so it ends up taking more than 20 hours per week of my time. But that's mainly because I don't have school right now, and I don't have any other things I need to be doing, more or less. But during high school, I prepared a lot for math competitions, especially in my sophomore and junior years, and I was at that point just spending about 20 hours or more, actually more than 20 hours per week, just doing practice contest problems. And I think the point here is just that in order to do better on these math competitions, I think the only way to get better, I mean, as Sasha was mentioned, or as Alex was mentioning, there there are more efficient ways and less efficient ways, but any sort of way that has any hope of making you better has to involve a lot of practice problems where you just keep practicing problems and you try them. You don't look at the solution. You don't just immediately read the solution. You spend a lot of time working on the problem, and that's how you learn. But it is also like there's a lot of people who are very successful who also spend a little less time than I did. And for sure, you don't have to like spend 30 hours a week doing math competitions in order to gain something out of it or be successful. But yeah, when I was there, I decided to spend a lot of time, and I personally enjoyed working on the problems, and that's why I was able to spend so much time. So the other point here is that, again, like if you're just doing it just for the competition's sake, then you'll actually find it very hard to spend a lot of time working on the problems, because it just won't be fun intrinsically, and then your only motivation will be the contest. But for me, I also enjoyed solving the problems just for the sake of the problems themselves. And that's why I was able to spend a lot of time, because I actually enjoyed what I was doing.
It's really powerful, Gopal. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think when you're focused on the journey, those milestones happen naturally, and then you're reaping the benefits of them. So if you're going for the mathematical journey, your personal journey, and you happen to do well on competitions, or you happen to be in a position where you can help someone else, those things naturally come in to being. So thank you so much for sharing that. That was wonderful. All right, we have two more. So next up we have Serena.
Okay. How big is your in real life math community? For example, school math team or math circles? So it's just me, handful of people, 10 to 20 people, or 20 plus. Okay, there seems to be a wide variety of answers. So I am with like people who said A or B, because I would say I had somewhat of a math community in middle school when some of my friends did math counts with me, and but then what I found is that in high school, like everyone ended up dropping math, either like doing something else like debate or like some sport. And the reason was because like here there aren't really any math competitions besides math counts, or if you can get your school to do the AMC, like if like 3 people care about the AMC at your school, maybe you can get that to happen. So it's really hard to find opportunities unless you're willing to dedicate a ton of time and effort into studying, and then hopefully like going to camps or competitions around the country. So I do sort of understand why a lot of people are might sort of go away from math when you don't have much of a community. I guess, however, what I've been trying to do in the past few years is to create somewhat of a community here by helping out middle schoolers with math counts, because since we have like at least some middle schoolers interested in math, I thought we could maybe get them to still be interested in math in high school, like even if they aren't like as hardcore about it as me, like going to all these competitions and camps, as perhaps if they can be interested in like continue volunteering at math counts or like helping the next few years of math count students. I thought that would be a good way to like still be involved with math.
Thanks, Serena. And I would say the one thing that I've noticed over the past few years is that math communities have become a thing now. Students are talking together, they're working through problems together, they're thinking through problems together. I think maybe few decades back, it was everyone kind of does math in their own silo and then they come together and share the right answer. But now everyone seems like they're working towards, I shouldn't say everyone, but it seems like a good number of communities have gathered and now work towards thinking through the problems together and not only just giving and sharing the right answer. So it was very encouraging to hear both sides of what you offered right there. And I know personally for me, like it was a very alone journey. I think there was one comment in the chat, just me, my dad, and the internet. I think I could relate almost identically without the internet. All right, so next and last question will be with Isabella.
All right, so what kind of math do you like learning about? Wow, got a pretty good variety. In terms of contests, I do really enjoy algebra. That is definitely the subject I feel the most comfortable with and the one I found the most success in. In terms of beyond just math contests, I have started getting into F or research math. It's been really great. I'm still not totally sure whether that's what I want to pursue, but it is really interesting. However, I think the ultimate winner in this case might actually be E. Despite I'm not really into coding and I'm not that much of a physics fan either, but I am very curious to hear about applied math and its applications in other fields.
Yeah, Isabella, thank you. During the MOAC ceremony, Gopal got his question answered about what type of math should one go into by Eric Lander. And it was a really wonderful answer that it is a personality thing. Doesn't mean that you are pigeonholed if you want to do anything meaningful in math that you need to go into one particular field. You find the one that aligns to your interests and your passions, and that's the one you pursue, and the opportunities will start to gravitate as long as you're proactive. So, all right, perfect. Before we move on, Pravalika, do you want to give your answer to the first question? I know we had some technical difficulties, maybe like a sentence or two of what you picked.
Oh, yeah. Was that the one about how difficult was math for you when you first started? So actually, surprisingly, I mean, at least I think a lot of people are surprised to hear that I actually struggled with math when I first started. I used to be an English person. Spelling was my jam. I really thought I was going to be a writer. And I mean, like, I really still do like reading and like creative things, but I think the turning point for me was definitely when I first started taking the AMCs, or also when I first started going to the Fairfax Math Circle, because before then, I think school math was just not fun. And I feel like when you ask a math teacher, like a lot of math teachers, if you ask them what the point of math is, they're going to say something silly like, oh, you know, we need math so you can calculate the tip at a restaurant, or so that you can like calculate your prices when you're checking out of a grocery store or whatever. And that's like not really the essence of math. So I feel like when I first started getting into competitions and when I first started doing math with other people, that's when I started, yeah, to get a job. That's when I started gravitating towards math and improving. So yeah, that was my biggest turning point.
Thank you for that, Pravalika. Yeah, I think if we polled everyone in this event, we would see that everyone has their own journey on how they design their career, or are thinking about designing their career. We're off to another good old subtle transition. This is our last one, so we're going to get our polls ready for our last story roulette. We have about 10 minutes. So panelists, we're going to go a little bit of a speed round so we can make it to some Q&A. Our first story roulette is with Isabella. So if you go ahead in your polls right about now, Isabella's poll should be up. Go ahead, take a look at her pictures and pick the picture you want to hear more about. Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds. All right, we're on picture number 3, Isabella, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so this is a nice little combination of two pictures. The top one is a contest that I went to in Hong Kong back in 2017. Those three, I'm on the far right, and those 3 people with me are still some of my best friends to this day. And in fact, we stayed in touch after the contest, even though it was like 4 years ago. The picture on the bottom was actually us meeting up at the end of July last month, and that cake is our 4th anniversary of us being like a team/friend group. It was just really nice to see everyone again and how we've all grown up, especially since COVID ended up separating us IRL for a while. In that time, we've been able to do lots of great things, both in math contests and in various other endeavors that we work on together. I just wanted to, in the end, like math contests, despite the math contests being like a great place to get prizes or find great problems, it's also a really great place to find some of your best friends.
Thank you for that, Isabella. And that's really the spirit of getting us all together here during this session, is really just to get to know one another and talk to one another, because we're all in the same community. So thank you for bringing that message forward. Our next panelist who has their pictures up is Serena. Serena has some pretty great pictures up here, so it might get close, guys. So her poll's up, and we'll give it a few seconds. Okay. All right, Serena, I think we have a leader, which is picture number 3.
Okay. So I guess picture number 3 continues off of what I was saying earlier about like math community. So this was when I was in 10th grade giving a talk at a local TEDx event, and the topic of the talk was building your own math community, because since it was hard to find people around me who also like math, I guess I built my math community by like finding friends online and using like AOPS a lot, blogging about math and connecting with people that way, and also running the math circle for middle schoolers. So I realized like what I said earlier might have sounded a bit negative, how like it can be hard for some people to stay into math because of like the lack of resources. But I guess I also want to add on top of that it is definitely still possible. Like I know when I first moved to South Dakota in 7th grade, I was really sad because like here there were not as many math contests or people interested in math as like Maryland, where I was for 6th grade. However, I think if you're in a similar position, you can definitely like overcome that by using the internet. There are tons of resources online and like books. Really, all you just need some access to problems.
Thank you, Serena. Yeah, that's some very concrete advice. And the one thing that I've learned from all 6 of you is that you've remained in contact, although you're across the country. So very great message. All right, and our last one is Alex. Alex's poll is up. Okay, we'll give about 5 more seconds. Okay. And picture number 2.
Okay. Well, as you have picked this picture, you probably know that this is France, and I'm at the top of the Eiffel Tower. This is a beautiful country with tasty cheese. But the story is not about cheese. This happened when I was doing my undergrad in France, just one semester. And I just came and got assigned an office in the university. I'm also used to working late, especially if I'm getting a lot of fresh ideas on the project. And so one of the days during my first week, I was in the office working together with my friend, my stomach. And the time was flying fast, and at some point my friend started to complain. So I decided to wrap things up and go cook dinner. It was probably around 8 p.m. at that time. I took my laptop, I put it in a bag, I turned off the lights in the office. But once I stepped outside in the hallway, the alarm went off. And I have never heard this terrible sound so loud in my life before. It goes inside you, it vibrates the bones, and covering your ears just doesn't help at all. I somehow made this exit. Went back to the dorm, and only later my local friends explained to me that no one in France work at around 8 p.m. They leave at 5 p.m. latest, and that's by far latest. And that's also why there were no guards who met me in the building that night at all. And the university is totally closed over the weekends as well. So I think that's a great example of life balance in action.
Thank you, Alex. I think the takeaway there is that we all need to get dual citizenship to Europe. All right. Well, with that, guys, we want to save maybe a minute for Q&A if we can, if anybody wants to stick around. But we want to thank you. I know on behalf of me and the panelists, we want to thank you for being here. It was really important for us to be able to talk to you directly. We have initiatives and programming on our new empowered website, so MAA-AMC.org. Not to put anybody on the spot, but we do have one of our other content creators on here in this fireside chat, so thank you for joining us. And please stay posted if you have ideas for different events that you'd like to see. You can feel free to email that email address or use the hashtag. We did have one question, so in a little bit of time that we have, it would be great to get some ideas from maybe 1 or 2 of you. One question is, what is the best way to study efficiently? Any thoughts you have on study advice?
I guess I can say a few words. Well, first of all, it's a very long and complicated question in terms of how to study efficiently. I think it's asked all the time, and this is what I was asking when I was in high school. How do I become better? And as an answer, I always get that, oh, you should solve more problems. And that is sort of correct, meaning that if you have an infinite amount of time, then solving enough problems will get you to any level of math as you wish. But I think contrary to most popular beliefs, I think this is not the most efficient way to solve problems. To advance. or at least not like solve random problems. In particular, like solving different problems can push you forward by different amounts. And that very much depend on two factors. One is how insightful the problem is. And the second one, how much of that insight you can actually understand. Like, for instance, just like, reading the proof of the problem, a lot of the times give you like at most 10% of the full insight that exists in the problem. And, a lot of the times it's like, you read some magical proof and something happened and suddenly the problem is solved, but you have no idea like why or how to come up with that. And I think both of those are hard. Like, first, how do you pick up problems that have a lot of insight? And the second one, okay, even if you have those problems, like how do you understand as much insight and intuition and connections as possible? And I think there's a lot of possible answers. And probably the most immediate one that I can give you is, well, first, you should ask yourself those questions consciously and seek answers to those. And the second one is, you should ask people around. You should ask your friends. You should ask someone you maybe meet at a competition or math counts or, AMC or something. You should ask your teacher, or you can like try to find a coach, or like, it's just like in general, asking people this sort of questions. And I think most, like not most, but like a lot of the times, if you ask sort of like this philosophical question of like, oh, how do I like come up with this idea or something, then a lot of people will not really understand what you're asking. They will answer maybe like, oh, which part of the proof you did not get? And that's not actually what you're looking for. But there also will be, like, if you keep asking, there will be people who will be able to answer the question you are asking, and those people will help you tremendously throughout, your journey. But yeah, I think like if like there is one thing that I want you to remember from this whole advice is that you should always consciously ask yourself questions of how do I do better, or like why this specific idea solved the problem, and how to improve the fastest.
Okay, well, definitely thank you again for everyone that's here, and thank you for that advice, Alex. Again, we know that there is other programming going on, or this might be it. But we thank you for joining us at MathFest. We'll stick around maybe for like another minute or two if people had burning questions, but please feel free to head off to wherever you're off to next. And again, thank you for being with us today.